After exploring Spain's west coast from the legendary Castellucci, known as Dragonstone in Game of Thrones, to the medieval alleys of Burgos, and through the charm of Vitoria and the elegance of Comillas, our journey led us to the Costa Brava. We set down our backs in Playa d'Aro, an ideal starting point to discover this Catalan coast with its many faces. Our day begins at the first light of dawn, as the sky gently ignites over the Mediterranean Sea. The sun slowly rises from the horizon, tinting the waves with golden reflections, offering us a spectacle only early risers can witness. Our adventure will continue in Girona, a medieval gem that also served as a setting in Game of Thrones, standing in for King's Landing and Bravos. Our journey will then lead us along the wild coast, where Blanes and Lloret de Mar will reveal on the side of Catalonia, one of preserved coves and hilltop castles. Our day begins with a visit to Girona and its path winding along the imposing medieval walls of the city. Our exploration of Girona's city walls begins at Peralta Tower. While the entire wall circuit spans about 3 kilometers, we are focusing on a particularly remarkable 400-meter section that will lead us to the Cathedral. These fortifications, with the first wall dating back to the 1st century BCE during the Roman founding of Girona, hold over 2 millennia of history. From Peralta Tower, an imposing defensive structure that sets the tone for our discovery, we walk in the footsteps of ancient sentinels. Our route then leads us to Santo Domingo Tower, strategically positioned to offer breathtaking views over the hidden gardens and inner courtyards of the old town. Our tour of the walls concludes at Girona Tower, where the panorama over the medieval city and surrounding mountains is simply stunning. The descent brings us to the Jardins dels Alemanis, a true oasis of freshness, nestled within the fortifications, named after the German mercenaries who once camped here. In the shade of centuries-old trees, we fully appreciate the privilege of traversing these ancient walls. This section, though short, offers perhaps the most beautiful views of Girona and is a must-see for any visit to the city. After admiring the gardens, we head toward Plaza de los Apóstoles, one of the central points in the old town. The square is dominated by the imposing facade of the Cathedral, whose construction spanned over several centuries. Before visiting it, we take a detour to the Girona Art Museum. Located next to the cathedral, the museum presents an impressive collection of Gothic and Baroque artworks, as well as medieval murals and tapestries. gallery showcasing the different types of pigments used by artists of the time is particularly interesting, offering insight into ancient techniques. The building itself, a former 16th century convent, is also well worth a visit. Leaving the museum, we head toward the spiritual heart of Girona, its majestic cathedral. Before us stands the world's widest Gothic nave spanning 23 meters. The Baroque facade of the cathedral is a striking blend of power and elegance. Inside, we enter a world of silence and light. The single nave impresses us with its vastness, while the medieval stained glass filters the light, casting plays of shadow and color of the ancient stone. This cathedral, which served as a set for Game of Thrones to represent the great sept of Baelor, is even more awe-inspiring in reality. Descending the iconic steps of the cathedral, we emerge onto the Plaza de la Catedral, a true open-air stage of Girona's life. This square, spreading out at the foot of the religious monument, now offers us a different perspective on the facade we just admired. The surrounding buildings, with their sunlit stone facades, create a perfect setting for the cathedral. From our position, we can fully appreciate the imposing flight of the stairs we just descended. These 90 steps, which have witnessed centuries of history, offer an especially photogenic scene. It was here that memorable Game of Thrones scenes were filmed, giving the square an additional dimension in the collective imagination. Continuing our exploration, we enter one of Girona's hidden gems, the Arabic baths. Despite their name, these baths are actually a Romanesque structure from the 12th century, inspired by Muslim thermal traditions. As we pass through the entrance, we are immediately immersed in a timeless atmosphere. Natural light filters through the oculi of the central dome, creating a mysterious and soothing ambience. In the center of the restroom, we admire the elegant columns that support an octagonal dome, a true architectural feat of the time. We wander through the various rooms, following the paths once taken by bathers, the frigidarium, tepidarium, and caldarium. The finely sculpted vaults and capitals bear witness to the refinement of an era when baths were not only places of hygiene, but also important centers of social life. These baths, remarkably well preserved, allow us to imagine the daily life of the people of Girona in the Middle Ages, when these spaces echoed with conversations and purification rituals. Leaving the baths, our steps lead us to the Plaza del Rurat, a historic square that once served as a meeting place for the city's jurors. Surrounded by medieval facades, with stones weathered by time, the square offers us a welcome break in our journey. The arches and balconies that overlook the space create a natural setting reminiscent of scenes from Game of Thrones, several of which were filmed in this neighborhood. Our journey now takes us to the Museu d'Archaeologia de Catalunya, housed in the former monastery of Sant Pere de Galligans. Upon arrival, we are struck by the Romanesque architecture of this 11th century building, with its majestic vaults and remarkably preserved cloister. As we enter the museum, we travel back in time through its various exhibition halls. From the region's earliest prehistoric inhabitants to the Roman era, each display tells a new chapter of Catalan history. The cloister, a true architectural gem, offers a moment of contemplation. Its sculpted columns and capitals, adorned with symbolic motifs, showcase the craftsmanship of Romanesque artisans. The natural light that fills the space creates an atmosphere perfect for observing the architectural details and the archaeological pieces on display. From the museum, we head towards the Basílica of Sant Feliu, recognizable by its slender bell tower that dominates the old town. This Gothic church, built between the 12th and 16th centuries, was Girona's first cathedral. Inside, we admire its magnificent Baroque altarpieces and 8 Roman sarcophagi sculpted in the 3rd and 4th centuries. These remarkably well-preserved sarcophagi depict biblical and mythological scenes. The chapel of Saint Narcissus, the city's patron saint, houses the tomb of this martyr. The light, filtering through the medieval stained glass windows, illuminates the single nave, creating a peaceful atmosphere, perfect for contemplating this architectural gem. Our journey now leads us to the Museum of the History of the Jews, nestled in the heart of the coal, Girona's old Jewish quarter. As we enter this historic building, we delve into the rich and complex history of the Catalan Jewish community that thrived here for over 6 centuries. The rooms unfold, each revealing a different aspect of medieval Jewish life. We discover finely engraved Hebrew tombstones, ancient documents, and everyday objects that speak to the vitality of this community. Particularly moving is a room dedicated to the Jewish women of Girona, where we learn about remarkable figures such as the writer Esther Caslari. As we continue our visit, we gain a deeper understanding of Girona's importance as a center of medieval Jewish thought. This immersion in history allows us to better grasp the cultural coexistence that shaped Girona's identity. Leaving the museum, we venture into the Porrada de Sant Domènec, one of the most iconic alleys in the Jewish quarter. This cobbled ascent, with each stone telling a story, winds through the medieval heart of Girona. The stone walls surrounding us, worn by the centuries, create a true corridor through time. The narrow, steep alley offers new perspectives of the medieval facades at every turn. The arches that sometimes span the passage add to the mysterious charm of the place, while the light dances between the buildings, creating ever-changing tableaus of shadows and light throughout the day. It's here, in this authentic setting, that the Game of Thrones teams found the perfect atmosphere to represent the streets of Bravos. Our stroll now leads us to one of the most photographed spots in Girona, the Eiffel Bridge. This red metal structure, spanning the Onya River, offers one of the most beautiful perspectives of the city. Built in 1877 by the Eiffel Company, the same one that created the famous Parisian Tower, this pedestrian bridge surprises us with its industrial elegance, which contrasts beautifully with the colorful facades of the houses hanging above the Onyar. On either side, the famous cases de l'Onyar reflect in the river's waters, creating a spectacle that changes with the light and time of the day. We take a moment to stop in the middle of the bridge, the ideal position to photograph one of Girona's most iconic postcards. Our exploration leads us to the place of the 1st October of 2017, a square steeped in contemporary history. the medieval streets of Girona, we discover a completely different side of Catalonia, where the Mediterranean Sea becomes the protagonist of the landscape. Our exploration of the Costa Brava now brings us to Blanes, the first town along this enchanting coastline known as the gateway to the Costa Brava. On the heights of the town, perched 173 meters above the sea, the Castel de Sant has been watching over the coast for more than a millennium. On clear days, its 360-degree panorama allows us to glimpse the distant silhouette of Montjuic in Barcelona. From this fortress, documented since 1002, remains an impressive 15-meter-high defensive tower. Like many other coastal castles of the time, it was built to protect the region from pirate attacks. In the 14th century, it was part of the Tordera line, a network of fortifications that communicated with one another through smoke or sound signals to defend Barcelona. Nearby, the Ermita de Sant Joan, likely built in the 13th century, outside the fortifications due to lack of space, adds a spiritual touch to this historically rich site. Arriving in Lloret de Mar, we take a path that winds its way up the heights. The Castel de Sant Joan stands before us, a millennial sentinel, sharing its name with its cousin in Blanes, like two guardians overseeing the Costa Brava. The coastal path then leads us along the cliffs. On our right, the Mediterranean unfolds its shades of blue as far as the eye can see, its waves crashing against the rocks below. On our left, the umbrella pines offer their protective shade, their branches shaped by the sea winds. The path follows the natural curves of the coast, each turn offering a new, breathtaking panorama. This promenade, perched above the sea, leads us to the beach of Taro den Reiner, where the crystal clear waters gently kiss the golden sand. The wild coves that dot our journey reminds us why this region is called the Wild Coast. Our journey along the Catalan coast has revealed the many faces of a region where history and the sea intertwine with grace. From Girona, the medieval city, where every stone tells a story, to the wild cove of the Costa Brava, each stop of our journey has offered its own discoveries. But the Costa Brava still holds many more treasures. From the turquoise waters of La Fosca to the ochre cliffs of Playa de Lila Roja. From the wide Playa Pais to the secret coves accessible only to adventurous walkers, this coastline truly deserves its nickname of the Wild Coast. Some of its most beautiful gems must be earned, hidden at the end of coastal trails, promising those who persevere moments of solitude facing the sea. This Catalan land, where the sea and history constantly converse, teaches us a beautiful lesson. While the best discoveries sometimes require little effort, the magic waiting at the end of the path is always worth it. See you soon for new discoveries.